I saw a quote this week from Billy Graham that I feel like is what I'm trying to say here. And that quote is, "Mountaintops are for views and inspiration, but fruit is grown in the valleys. And estrangement is our valley. And what fruit are we going to grow and produce in our valley?" Good morning. The last time we chatted, we spoke with Lynn, and I know she was such an encouragement to you guys, and that her story resonated with so many of you, which is encouraging for me, because that's what I hope that you gain, is that you gain some encouragement through our time together. So, okay, I'm going to continue on with the update you didn't ask for theme to get our episode started as I figure out how to, navigate this new By Yourself podcast. The update that you did not ask for, I'm going to tie it back to 2 episodes ago when I gave you the update you didn't ask for, which was the debacle of trying to find this kombucha at the Boise Co-op that I could not find, and they ended up calling the owner, and it was this whole big thing that it did not need to be. I just want to let you guys know that I braved it. My little introverted self braved it, and I went back to the store and I got the kombucha and we had it on Thanksgiving. Yay! The sad part is that we didn't actually like it. So it was a whole lot of effort for something we didn't actually like, which is disappointing, but I'm happy to support a local company. But I hope your guys' Thanksgiving was good. Ours was a little weird. Outside of, talking about estrangement, my husband and I both work for a disaster relief organization, and he has been gone since the end of October, minus coming home for 5 days, but we are now into December, and it's definitely feeling like a long time. He has been helping in Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa and is set to be home this week, and I'm so excited. But it was a weird Thanksgiving because we've been married 17 years together for almost 20, and so I've spent more Thanksgivings with him almost than I have not, and so it was really weird not having him. But we made the best of it and had a good Thanksgiving. So, okay, today we're going to talk about God's promises. The question I want to start with today in asking you, and really I want you to ponder and think about what does this mean for me? So my question to you today is, what are you doing in this season of estrangement? I know that we're navigating through lots of feelings and grief, and those are all real and valid. The reality is it's here, it's not going anywhere, and we don't know for how long you're going to be in this season. So how do we move from grief through the process to trust and hope in Jesus? When I started this platform, or not the platform, but talking about estrangement, I started talking about it with the idea of bringing you hope in Jesus, which is why I created devotionals. So if you don't know, you can go to my website and get a devotional. There's free ones, there's all sorts of price points, because I want it to be accessible to anyone, because that's my hope here, is that I bring you back to Jesus, because walking through estrangement without Jesus feels pretty devastating, hopeless, overwhelming, and easy to get lost in the grief. And so recentering and finding hope in Him helps us navigate through the season well. I also think that it's easy just to say you can find hope in Jesus. And I like to break things down. So I want to walk it back a little bit. How do we know? It's easy just to say have hope in Jesus, but if we don't actually believe and know the things that the Bible says and God's character, it feels more challenging to find hope in something that you don't really know or understand and really believe to be true. And so I want to walk it back to some of the promises that God gives us in the Word, because if we start to really understand His character and His heart for us, then finding hope just streamlines that process of finding hope in Him. So I want us to take inventory of whether we actually believe what the Bible says, because if we do, then believing there's hope in Jesus, whether reconciliation happens or not, becomes possible. Because the truth is, we don't really know what's going to happen. We don't know if there will be reconciliation or not, or if we will continue to live in estrangement. Will the Lord allow this estrangement to continue, or will he intervene and he reconcile us? We live in this weird in-between of unknowns, which is why my community is called Between Hope and Heartbreak, and I've talked about it so frequently, is because we live in this weird in-between, between hope and between heartbreak. But how do we move more towards hope and out of the heartbreak? I'm not saying the heartbreak won't exist, it still will. But I also want us to use this time well. I want us to evaluate, what is God trying to show us? Okay, we're in this season of estrangement. We're here. It's happening. So now what? What is God trying to show us, teach us, reveal to us? How is he strengthening me? What character is he trying to build up in me? We love to quote the verse, he works all things together for good, which I believe to be true. But that requires us to acknowledge that there's probably a difference in my definition of good and God's definition of good. My definition of good would be reconciliation. That might not be God's definition of good for us. So we're going to walk it back to God's promises and who he says he is, what he says, and what he's faithful to do. We tend to only think that of God as providing reconciliation, and I don't want us to lose sight of that. Obviously, he can do that. But sometimes I think we're so hyper-focused on that we can lose sight of the ways he's moving in the small, quiet, daily moments. And if I'm being really honest, my fear when walking through estrangement is that I will have walked through this storm for nothing. I will come out the end, I will come out the other side and I will still not have a relationship with my child. And I won't have learned anything. I won't have grown. I will lack spiritual maturity, that I'll have gone through all of this without falling more in love with Jesus. And my fear is if that happens, I will be left wondering, what was the point? We can't control much about our relationships with our kids. Yes, there are some things we can control. What we can control is our growth, our healing, our faith, our pursuit of Jesus, our character, our healing. And if in this season of estrangement, we are stewarding all of that well, if we can walk through and focus on those things, then this storm will not have been wasted. I put a devotional out on the community this last week, and I brought up the story in 1 Kings where Elijah was desperate for direction. He was tired, he was afraid, he was hiding in a cave, and then God told him to stand on the mountain. And Elijah was supposed to be looking for God. So all of these things came, and he's looking for God in these big things. The fires, the windstorm, the earthquake. Surely God's there. He told me to come. He's told me to wait. I'm waiting. These big things are happening. Surely God's in these big things. And he wasn't in any of those big things. In 1 Kings 19:12, it says, And after the fire, there was the sound of a gentle whisper. And that's where Elijah heard God, in the gentleness, not in the chaos, not in the dramatic, but in a whisper. And honestly, if I'm being honest, and I think if you're being honest with yourself too, I would wonder how often we hear him in the whisper more than we do in the chaos, especially when we're walking through a season of waiting and silence, when the prayers haven't been answered, when the relationship is still strained, when the door you're begging God to open has remained shut. What I have learned in the waiting, God's promises are not fragile. They don't bend to the circumstances. They don't expire when we mess up, and they're steady even when we are not. Hebrews 10:23 says, Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promise. Clinging to his promises when so many things feel uncertain takes faith, and faith is a muscle that we have to build. We don't have to start big. We just have to start. We just have to start. The small movements will still build muscle. Little acts of faith can still hold power. And when you're too tired to figure out what to cling to, let these promises be your anchor. So we're going to get into the promises that God has for us. Okay, you guys, I don't know why I do that voice, but it is what we're going to talk about what the Bible says and what God promises so that you have them to hold on to anchor you in this season when reconciliation feels out of your hands. God still promises these things, and these can be your anchors that anchor you to hope, okay? So I'm going to include them all in the show notes. There might be a lot, you guys. I kind of have quite a few written down. It might be, I don't know, I might not, it might be too much. But I'm going to include them in the show notes, but I'm going to breeze through them. So, God promises to be close to the brokenhearted. It says in the word, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. He gives promises to those who seek wisdom. If you lack wisdom, ask God and it will be given to you. He promises to never leave you or forsake you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. He promises peace that doesn't even make sense to the world. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and your minds. He promises to carry your burdens. Cast your burdens on the Lord and he will sustain you. He promises to work in ways that you cannot see. It says, I am doing a new thing and I am making a way in the wilderness. He promises that nothing, not even estrangement, can separate you from him. Nothing in all of creation will be able to separate us from the love of God. He promises to make beauty from ashes. He will give you a crown of beauty for ashes. He promises that your suffering is never wasted. Your labor in the Lord is not in vain. In Joshua, it says that God is for you, for the Lord of God is with you wherever you go. It says that God will give us rest. Come to me, all who are weary, and I will carry your burdens, and I will give you rest. It says that he will renew your strength. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. It says that he comforts you in your pain. He comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort others. The other question I would ask you is this week, what would it look like to cling not to the outcome, but to God's promises? Not to just reconciliation, but what God's doing in the meantime. I want all of us to use this time of estrangement well. I want us to come out the other end, whether reconciliation has happened or not, and feel proud of where we're at. To feel solid in our walk with the Lord, to feel excited for the future. Estrangement can take away that excitement. Someone said in my DMs this week, and I thought it was so powerful, and I will probably use a lot, it's a death of a million dreams. And that's true because there's these things that you don't think about that we walk through. In an interview last week when I was talking to a reporter, I said that time tends to stand still in estrangement because how do you take family pictures? That doesn't feel right. How do you move forward with memories and moments that you know won't include them? That doesn't feel right. I want to go see a show on Broadway. It feels weird not to take my daughter. I wanted to see the second Wicked with her. It felt weird going without her. There's these moments and times that they sneak up on us. Sometimes they're super small moments and sometimes they're big moments. The birth of a grandchild, a wedding, a graduation, there's these moments that we miss because of estrangement or that they miss out for us. This week I thought about that. My son is in theater, my oldest son, and he made it to state and they made it all the way to semifinals and he called me and he was so excited and I was crying and I think she would be really excited. I think she would have been really excited for him. And she missed it. And it sucks for him and it sucks for her and it sucks all around. And so there's all these missed moments that we don't even realize in between the big ones. And it's painful. And I want us to come out the other end. Despite the pain of estrangement, I want us to come out stronger. more anchored in who we are, who God says we are. I want us to be a healed version of ourselves. I want us to have grown. Our character have been strengthened. I want us to be okay whether reconciliation happens or not. And I don't think we can do that without anchoring ourselves in the promises of what Jesus says, of what the Word says. I hope that was encouraging today. There is a free devotional, and as always, you can join our online community for moms walking through estrangement, where we encourage and support each other. We have our monthly Zoom call coming up next weekend, and then starting in January, we're actually going to be going through a book that someone in the community recommended that I'm super excited about. So it's lots of encouragement and support available to you. I saw a quote this week from Billy Graham that I feel like is what I'm trying to say here. And that quote is, "Mountaintops are for views and inspiration, but fruit is grown in the valleys." Estrangement is our valley. What fruit are we going to grow and produce in our valley? Have a great week, friends.